Happy Saturday to our viewers in our Facebook group. I don't think we've ever done a video on a Saturday,
Yeah.
but this is kind of impromptu for us. We had one of our clients from our relationship course, Josie Warren, joining us today, and the founder of A New Life Center, David Cope, and I'm Karen Seitz. And we were having a really great discussion with Josie on how she enjoyed her Thanksgiving and what had shifted for her and what she was learning. And we decided, hey, this is really great stuff. We need to share this in our group, and decided to come on live, and Josie's going to share today. But first, we'll take a moment. And David, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes. Thank you, Karen.
Of course.
Yes. So, my name is David Cope, and I'm a founder of a New Life Center with my partner, Peggy. And we've been teaching people for the last 10 years how to build relationships with themselves and how to carry that into their marriages and into their own lives. I got started in relationships and wanting to have a loving and intimate relationship after I got a divorce. I know that doesn't quite sound right. When I was married for 20 years, I always wanted an intimate, loving relationship, but I ended up getting divorced. And after my divorce, I spent a lot of time trying to find out what makes a loving and intimate relationship, because I didn't want to end on my deathbed looking back and saying I never had a loving and intimate relationship. So after my divorce, I started reading books and studying, and I found out that everything I was reading was the things I was trying to do when I was married, trying to make my wife happy. And I realized in a moment of awareness that I could never have made my wife happy, and that what I had to do was focus on finding the happiness within myself. So that kind of led to building a relationship with myself so I know who I am and I can take that into a relationship, because one of the most common things that happen in a marriage and relationship is we lose ourselves. So by building a relationship with yourself and being true to who you are, bringing that into a relationship is the foundation of intimacy in a relationship. So, and how about you, Josie? How did you get involved in this call today? Who are you?
Hello, everyone. I'm Josie Warren, and I have been involved in the relationship program for over a year now, and it has helped completely transformed my relationship with myself, and in turn, changed the relationships I have with all the people in my life. And I am here to share about the completely different Thanksgiving experience that I had this year, thanks to what I've learned into the video that I watched with you, David, and Karen.
So, Karen, can you give a little foundation for our listeners and about what our Facebook group is all about and our relationship foundation or relationship course?
Of course. So, if you've been in the group a little bit, then you've been hearing our guiding principles and the framework for our group and the perspective that we teach. And if you're brand new, these are really good reminders to start to see how you understand these principles, and how they can help you to have the relationship that you always wanted, or the marriage that you always wanted. And our first guiding principle is that you are responsible for your happiness. Many of us, just in our humanness, get really lost in looking for people and things, or our husband and our marriage to be the thing to make us happy. And it never can, because happiness is an inside job. It's something that we have to do for ourselves and develop internally. And the second guiding principle is that the only person you can change is yourself, that we have absolutely no control to change anybody else, including our husbands, and that there's nothing that they can change or do that's going to change the experience that we're having, either of ourselves, of our lives, or of our marriage. That if we want change, we have to be the ones to change. And our third guiding principle is that authentic intimacy is about having a relationship with yourself and feeling good about who you are. And it's from that place that we can actually show up vulnerably as who we are and share ourselves fully. And that's what creates intimacy within a relationship. And I think a lot of what we'll be talking about today, as it ties into Josie's Thanksgiving and how she was able to enjoy herself, really comes from applying those three principles in her life, from taking responsibility from her happiness, to know that if she wanted to have a different experience of Thanksgiving, then she was the one that needed to change. And that all of this was possible by her having a relationship with herself and feeling good about herself. So that's what
Josie.
I got.
So Josie, can you just back up and give a little view of what your Thanksgivings are have been in the past, and let the viewers know that you watched our video that Karen and I did on, when was it, Wednesday or Tuesday?
Tuesday, yeah, Tuesday.
And what made you watch that, so that the viewers can have a clear understanding? Because we talked about in the video about being conscious about our choices and how we show up instead of just rushing through. Can you start off from that little perspective?
Absolutely. I'd say the holidays for me, David, Karen, have always been a time that I just want to get over with. I've always just put on the holiday me and just ran through the holidays, seen people, baking things, going to parties, saying yes to everything, doing as much as I can, and not being myself in any of it. So I thought more was more. And by the end of the holidays, I would be stressed out, I'd be tired, I would be regretting the year and not even looking forward to the new year. I would spend all this time with my family, yet I felt like more distanced from them. I felt more alone. I felt more unloved, and I didn't know why. I thought it was my family, and I thought it was the holidays, but in the work that I've been doing through the relationship course, I realized that it's me, and that it was my lack of my relationship with myself, which, might sound, oh no, but actually to me it was a huge relief, because I can't change my family. I can't change the fact that there's always going to be Thanksgiving and Christmas, but I can change myself. I can work on myself, and I can go into these experiences and interactions in a whole new way, and change how I view everything just by working on myself. So I kind of caught myself Thanksgiving morning. I was in my kitchen, and I was making a scalloped potato casserole. So I was mandolining the potatoes and peeling the potatoes, and I could just feel my resentment building and growing. And oh gosh, here I go again. How am I going to get through this one? I was going over to my mom's house to spend time with her side of the family, as always, and could just feel those same old feelings of I should go. Who am I going to see? How can I avoid them? How can I get out of there as soon as possible? And I said, you know what? David and Karen did a video on this. Why don't I watch it? I think I need, an infusion of some truth and some help right now, because I can feel myself going into my same patterns. And so I cranked it up loud. I opened up my heart and my ears wide, and I just listened to every word you two said, because I knew I needed SOS. I needed some help. I didn't want this Thanksgiving to be like all the, 30 other Thanksgivings I've had in my life. I was ready for this to be different. So that's kind of how I started this change that I experienced on Thanksgiving.
I like when you said, when you were sharing earlier, the first thing when you get to your family's house is you look for the wine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's just like, how I don't want to be there. So how can I get away from this as soon as possible and still be there? Who has the wine? Fill my wine up quickly. Where's the couch? Can I get a seat on the couch that I can sit at for this whole thing so I don't have to talk to people? Is the TV on? I hope it's on so I don't have to see anybody. Just looking for every reason and way to not engage with people and to check out.
So Josie, just as a point of clarification, often we, in understanding our relationship with ourselves, we have this outside perspective persona, like um, the happy pill, and we call it, where we have the outward perspective and showing people we're happy and we're happy to be there. And this one woman said, I put on my holiday best face. When you used to go to Thanksgiving, did you go pretending to be happy but realizing inside you really weren't? And can you share how that worked? Because
Yeah.
most people go to Thanksgiving wanting to believe that they want to be there, and they put on a persona that they're happy and wanted to be there, but internally they're resenting what's happening. Can you share
Mhm.
your perspective of that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I so didn't want to be there and to spend that time with my family. And I was so unhappy with my life and the way that it was. And I didn't want anyone to know that. So I tried extra hard to be holiday me.
Okay.
I would get my hair all done up. I would spend a lot of time picking out just the right outfit, to find just the right presents or just the right dish to make. And when I would show up, I'd be huge, hello, big hugs, big kisses. I'd be so excited to see everybody. And when they would ask about my life, I would lie. And, oh, it's so great. Oh, I'm having the best life. Oh, my relationship with my partner oh, we're doing so well. Oh, I love my job. And everything, I was just putting on a huge act. And in the past, I was putting on an act anyway, but in the holidays, I felt like I had to make that act times 10. And it's exhausting to be someone that I'm not and to try to pretend that I want to be there and that I'm thrilled with my life. And the harder I tried to be someone that I wasn't, the more resentful I would be, the more drained I would feel during the holidays. The farther and farther that distance became between myself and my relationship with my family. And really the greater the gap between myself and my relationship with myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was on an island and that island just went out to sea during the holidays. Like I was so far gone, and that's why I would just continue to try harder and harder to put on a holiday facade. And it was exhausting.
And what did you do differently? How is this? What choices did you make consciously?
Mm-hmm.
Because we live in this facade of wanting everybody to believe that we're happy and have everything put together, but inside it was very common for most of us to be unhappy and not fulfilled in our lives, and we hide that from ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the unconscious part that what we're trying to uncover, so that we can be aware of the truth of our own experience. So what you did, you're saying, is you watched the video so you could become conscious of how you were choosing to interact during Thanksgiving. Can you share about what choices you made differently and how your experience was different?
Absolutely. In the past, I would just go into Thanksgiving. I would basically just turn my on switch off and just kind of go through like a zombie, hoping I could get it over with. And this time I said, you know what? I watched your video and I realized, I'm going to Thanksgiving. This was my choice. No one's forcing me to go. I made the choice to be around my family. So why don't I stop fighting my choice and then take responsibility for it from my heart and say, okay, now I have an opportunity to go. And instead of being the old me, so concerned about not being myself and so concerned about putting on a front, how about for the first time I try being myself with my family? Mm-hmm. And how about for the first time I see this as an opportunity to interact with them in a real and true way and just see how it goes? How about this time I use it as an opportunity to get to know who they are as people
Mhm.
instead of just asking questions that I don't want to really know the answer to? How about I really start to care about myself and about my family from my heart, and not make this about the holidays and about the food and about the wine and about the TV and about the couch, but how about I make this about my relationship with myself, and how I can show the people in my life who I am now and be proud in that. And so I just made the choice to flip the whole way I was thinking. I was thinking going into this, before I watched your video, that this was something that I had to do, that I didn't want to do it, that it was going to be draining and hard. And so I realized the only way it's going to be like that is if I make it that way for me. So I have the choice to make it a completely different experience. And so I really felt like Dave and Karen, I had nothing to lose. I mean, it's, as I shared about my previous holiday experiences, there wasn't a really lot to build off of from that. So why not just start fresh? And so,
What
yeah.
were some of the conscious choices you made?
Yeah. So I went in, I took pride in my dish. I didn't just slop together something. I think that was the first choice I made. I made a dish and I made it for myself. I made those scallop potatoes for me.
Okay, can you explain that's a nuance that most people don't understand? Often when we bake, we cook for others. We want to go and make the best dish we can so people eat it and say, oh my God, that's the best scalloped potatoes I've ever had. What's the nuance, the difference between baking it for yourself and doing it for you, and how does that change your experience when you do things for yourself rather than from getting external validation from somebody else?
Yeah, no, that it really changed everything. I switched halfway through making my potatoes. The first half, I was doing it and kind of aggressively mandolining the potatoes, feeling a little angry. I was putting like kind of resentment and anger into the dish, and was so concerned about, well, if I do this, will people like it? If I add this, will people like it? And I wasn't enjoying myself. And in making the dish, when I was trying to do it for other people.
So more like an obligation. I go to Thanksgiving, I'm supposed to bring a dish, and this is what I'm supposed to be making, as opposed to...
Yeah, instead of saying, hey, you know what, I love to cook. This is something I love to do for myself that makes me feel good about who I am. I love to experiment with cooking. I like to try new things, and I like to do my best for me. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to try to make this perfect for my family. I'm going to try some new things in this dish and make it good and do my best for me. And how it turns out, oh well, kind of who cares? I'm going to have fun with this. I'm going to enjoy myself. I'm going to make this dish, even though it's a huge old casserole dish. I'm going to make this just for me, to know that I can do a good job, to feel good about myself. And I felt like I took that dish to Thanksgiving. I was giving myself on the table. I said, this is me. This is an accurate representation of who I am. I am experimental. I'm a hard worker. I'm a work in progress. And I'm always trying new things. So here you go, everybody. And they could have not eaten that dish. I would not have even cared. I just felt proud that I tried new things and I made that dish. That was my dish. And I have to say, making it for me, it was actually really good. And people said, wow, this is some of the best scalloped potatoes I've ever had. And I just said, thank you, because while it was nice, I got those compliments, I didn't need it, because I already filled my heart up with everything I need by making this dish just for me in the kind of the precious area of my kitchen. I had already gotten everything I needed by just doing it for me. And then I could just share it with my family.
And so just to expand on that just a little bit, in the holidays, what we tend to do is to do things to get validation from other people. Presents. I want people to feel good because I'm giving them presents. I want them to like it. I bring the dishes because I want to have people say, oh, this is wonderful. What we're learning to do when we build a relationship with ourselves is to do it for ourselves. And that when we start doing things for ourselves because we're getting the validation from within ourselves, we experience life in the holidays not as disappointment, but an opportunity to engage and to experience ourselves. So we no longer need the validation from the family and friends, which sometimes happens and sometimes doesn't, but it never makes us feel good. It's a temporary feeling, but when we do things because we're choosing to do for ourselves, for our own experience, and the validation isn't necessary externally, we're doing it for ourselves. It changes our relationship with ourselves and how we experience the holidays and life in general. And Karen, anything you would like to share, just as a breakup for a change in pace about how you experience your Thanksgiving a little differently?
Of course. And I just want to point out, and piggybacking off of something David just said, and what Josie was talking about, is it's it's when we're able to find that validation within, that's where we're creating our happiness
Right.
inside of
Thank
us.
you.
And that's where we're feeling good about ourselves, and we can show up as ourselves. We talk a lot about dropping our walls.
Hmm.
When I can do what I need to do, like making a dish just for myself, because I love making this, and I feel good about myself cooking, and it's something that I like to do, then I'm not expecting anything from anyone else, so I can drop my walls and just show up as me, and not be seeking that external validation. And when I can get it from within myself, it is 1,000 times better and permanent and long lasting than when I try to get that validation from, say, my husband or my mother-in-law or my own mom. That is a really fleeting experience, and it doesn't last. So I wanted to highlight that.
Thank you. That's good for you to tie it into the happiness and
Of
walls. So
course.
thank you.
And as a result, actually, of David and I doing our video this past Tuesday, those were good reminders that I needed to be able to show up and have a different experience of Thanksgiving for me. That even though these are the concepts that I teach and mentor other women on and help them to apply in their own lives, I'm consistently doing this work in my own life too. And I need plenty of reminders that none of this is about being perfect. It's about understanding our humanness and how the mind works and normalizing that, so we can catch these things and give ourselves a better experience. So for me, the Thanksgiving, especially the past few years, has been I think since I've been more aware of what I'm actually feeling and what's coming up for me, is a challenging holiday. And this year I was able to go into that proactive, knowing that different feelings were going to be stirred up, and that I was going to run up against things within me. And my husband and I decided to do Thanksgiving, just the two of us, and have a nice dinner at home. And we planned to go see a movie. And in the past Thanksgivings, when we've done something like that, I wake up on Thanksgiving morning already lost in what my husband is doing, or lost in him. What does he want to do today? How does he expect today to go? When does he want to start cooking? When does everything about him? And I don't have just an experience of me and doing things that I want to do and making choices for myself throughout the day. So this Thanksgiving, I decided that I was going to wake up when I woke up and get out of bed and get my day going. And I made a choice to go swimming at the gym I'm a member of, to go do something that made me happy. To remember, happiness is an inside job, and I knew, hey, I've got to do some things for myself today so that I can show up with my husband throughout the day and not resent him that I'm doing everything he wants to do and I didn't do anything for myself. So I got up and chose to go swimming and spend some time with me. And then I got home and my husband and I started cooking, and I could tell I was in more of a kind of upbeat, energized mood, and my husband wasn't. And because of the video that David and I did on Tuesday, I was able to see, oh, Adam, my husband, has some things coming up for him. And he's up against some of those own feelings that we all come up against on Thanksgiving. So maybe he's not in the most playful, energized mood. And I don't need him to be there with me for my experience to be a good experience. And it was so good to be able to catch myself in that and recognize that, because old me would have kept coming at him and kept trying to pull him in and meet me where I'm at. And hey, everybody be in a good mood, everybody be happy, everybody be on the same page. And I think that's one of the biggest myths I've had to break down in my marriage, is that it's not about being on the same page all the time, that's unrealistic. And so to be able to catch myself and say, hey, he's where he's at, you can still have a fun time with yourself. You don't need to be in his face and try to get him to be where you're at. Why don't you take it down a notch? that was the inner dialogue going on with me. And it was so neat to have that and to be able to respect my husband and where he was at. And we had a lovely day together. It was just really nice. And we went to a movie that evening, and it was, I think, the first Thanksgiving I can remember where I wasn't so caught up in the expectations and wanting my husband to be a certain way or respond to me a certain way. And as a result, I really enjoyed my day and could just be open to the different things that were coming up for me and be aware that he had things coming up. And that's really what it means to have a relationship with yourself, and then bring that intimacy into your marriage, is when you can know where you're at. And then then you can be aware of where your partner is at.
That's a good point.
And accept them. And I could tell, even though he didn't really say, I could tell he really appreciated it when I took it down a notch. And I just was like, okay, we can just be chill. Like, it's all okay. So that was my experience.
So can you just remind our listeners what you did in the morning and how critical that is to choose yourself? Because what happens is we wake up and we rush into the day, and we not stopping to choose ourselves. Can you just clarify why that's critical and the foundation of having a relationship with yourself, and what you did consciously to create the day that you had?
Of course. So one of my biggest struggles in my marriage, especially if it's a holiday or my husband and I have the day off together, is that I wake up in the morning and I don't slow down to ask myself, what do I want to do today? What do I need to get done? What would I like to do for myself?
Yeah.
It's like I wake up, and I like how you said that, David. I just run into my day, and I don't slow down to think about any of those things. And ultimately, what happens again and again and again is I get completely lost in my husband. My whole day becomes wrapped around him and what he's doing and what he wants to do. And when we do that, what happens, until we can be aware of that and see that's what's going on, is we become really resentful.
Yeah.
Because there's no me in my day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it's a good way of looking at it is everything, my whole experience becomes wrapped up in my husband and what he's doing or not doing. And by the end of the day, we end up in a fight or not having a nice time with each other. And it's because I never stopped to look at what do I want to do today. So that was a big difference on Thanksgiving for me this year, was actually waking up. I actually made myself a little note card that I put beside my bed before I went to bed on Wednesday night, where I had already written down things I wanted to make sure I did for myself on Thanksgiving Day, and reminded myself to feel and to be open to different feelings that were uncomfortable coming up on Thanksgiving, because that's normal. So the first thing that happened Thursday morning was I picked that note card up and reminded myself, okay, I really want to go swimming today. That's important to me. And
why is that important to you?
Because it's something I can do with myself. That's me just doing something for me. That's part of making myself happy and having a relationship with myself, is doing the things that I love to do. Or for me, swimming is more something I just like to go do to have fun with myself.
Mhm.
And
So-
when I do that, I fill me up. So I have plenty of energy and to give to my relationship and to show up with my husband.
But that sounds, some people would say that's awful selfish of you to get up
Mhm.
on Thanksgiving morning and go swimming. What
Yeah.
about your husband? I
Well,
mean, why
it's
aren't you?
kind of the opposite.
It is.
Where that's what we think. Those are the myths and the beliefs that we live in that actually crumble our marriage and why we have all the problems that we have. It's when I don't take care of me and do what I need to do. I mean, I was only gone for maybe an hour and a half because there was a Starbucks trip in there too. But I was only gone for an hour and a half. And then I was able to show up for the rest of the day with my husband. Whereas if I didn't do that, I actually would have gone into that spiral of resentment
Yeah. Good.
and taken that out on him. And that's selfish because I didn't, it's almost like I would have been running on empty.
Yeah.
That if I
Good
had
point.
run into my day, there wouldn't have been anything within me that I had energized myself and taken care of me first
Yeah.
so that I can be in my relationship. And if I hadn't done that, I can guarantee you I wouldn't have been able to be aware of where my husband was at and what was going on with him and been respectful of that. I would have made it all about me. Look at me, I'm doing everything you want me to do, and
Yeah.
we're doing everything you want to do, and you're grumpy. And taking it personally. But because I had put myself first in a healthy way and taking care of me and did what I needed to do for me, that was what allowed me then to be myself and be aware of what was going on for my husband and be a good partner because I did take care of me and I did put myself first so then I could be there in the relationship.
Thank you, Karen.
Or-
Josie, one of the things that you shared that was interesting when I asked you, well, how was your Thanksgiving? And by the way, Josie and I were on a call today. Part of the working together in a relationship course is that the students, the clients that are taking the course, get individual time when they have questions or issues come up. And when I used to teach the course, and Josie took it when I taught it. Karen now teaches it. And Josie called because she had an issue that came up, and we set up a time, and it's part of the support that somebody gets. As Josie said, she's been doing this a year, so we're there to support when the things come up to refresh and remind. And one of the things, Josie, you said was, what made Thanksgiving so wonderful is you left early. Can you share? Like, whoa, what does that mean?
Yeah, it just came right out of my mouth, David. But it was, I'd say, the most exciting thing that I experienced was I made the choice to leave Thanksgiving early. And in the past, I was always the person that would be the last to go, basically like ushered out because everybody else had left. And I would basically make my mom or the other family members choose for me and, say, okay, I'm going to bed or it's time to go. And then I would leave exhausted and tired. And I just said, I don't want to have a 12-hour Thanksgiving anymore. I just don't feel like that is productive for anybody. And when I'm really honest with myself, I'm really good in like 3-hour periods. And I would so much rather be my whole self and be all me and give my family my very best in that 3 or 4 hour time period than be the drawn out, resentful me of the 12-hour Thanksgiving. So this time I made the choice, even before I went, I said, I'm going to a movie tonight at 6:30. And I'm going to buy my ticket before I even go to Thanksgiving. So before I even went in, kind of like Karen was talking about going swimming, I knew that I want to spend some time with myself to also charge up my own batteries with me and spend that time with me along with spending time with my family. So I bought a ticket before I went to my mom's house, basically right after I watched her video. And knowing that I had something I was doing for me, kind of like Karen was talking about, well, then I could go into Thanksgiving way more excited, not wondering, oh gosh, how long is this going to last? How long am I going to be here? But knowing, okay, I have this amount of time, and in this amount of time, I am going to be my best. I'm going to engage with my family. I'm going to learn who they are and share about myself. And so instead of feeling this doom, of this never-ending Thanksgiving, I gave myself a nice, clean time period, and I was able to engage with family members that I normally don't. I was able to ask about how people were doing now and really care and listen about their answer. I was able to share about myself and what I'm doing professionally. I made a career switch recently. That was a big choice for me, and I was able to share about that with pride to my family members, and it just felt really nice to commit that time period to them and then know that I was committing the rest of the time to me. And I was the first to leave. I said, okay, I ate my pie, and I said, well, here I go. First time in my life I've done this, but stood up, said, thanked everyone. I said from my heart, I really enjoyed who they were and appreciated this Thanksgiving and acknowledged my mom for all the hard work that she did and gave everyone hugs and got my bags and my scalloped potatoes and got in my car and I left. And
what was it? Were you afraid how they were going to react leaving early, and how did they actually respond to you?
It's funny, yeah, David. I was very worried before I made this choice. My mind told me that, oh, I'm going to be the ungrateful one.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the unloving one. People are going to think that I'm ditching out, that I don't like them. And really the funny thing is kind of the opposite happened. And I actually inspired other people to leave early.
Wait a minute, that doesn't fit in our cultural example. Can you?
Not at all. But,
what does that mean? You inspired others to leave early. Why was that a healthy thing and not a destructive thing, breaking up this family unit of people coming together for Thanksgiving and spending this family time together, and you abruptly leave and everybody else? Why is that a good thing that you did? Yeah. That doesn't sound like a good thing, Josie.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, fellow viewers, I know it does sound like that's a very, very cold and uncaring thing. But actually, I found, I checked in with myself. I said, okay, it's time to go. I thought about what we had done. We'd eaten, we'd shared, we'd gone on a walk together, we'd had dessert. I felt really complete. I felt really satisfied. And I found in the past, people tend to, after the pie, people just kind of hang for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours afterwards, not really knowing when to go, not quite sure. And really, to me, after the dessert, that's kind of the end point for me. So I felt full in my heart. I said, I thanked everyone I left, and I learned.
How did they feel when you left? What was their reaction?
They said, so good to see you. Thanks so much. They were thankful to see me. There was smiles. My mind told me everyone would be like having a pitchfork, trying to get me out of there. So upset, and everybody was just thankful to see me. I felt a lot of love and genuine appreciation from myself and from my family, and I felt like, yeah, I really made the right choice. Mm-hmm. And 10, 15 minutes later, find out my sister, her boyfriend made the choice. They had a nice Thanksgiving, and they were going to go home and spend time with each other. And then about an hour later, my aunt and my uncle and my cousin, they made the choice to drive back to Fort Collins. And it was great. It gave my mom a chance to kind of be with herself and clean up and, just take a breather. Mm-hmm. Gave my family time to drive back home. And it felt so much healthier to leave at the right time, versus leaving way past, into the late night. Mm-hmm. To me, it's like a sitcom, like Seinfeld, right? You want to end it when you're on top. You don't want to keep it going for 15, 20 years and wait for it just to drag out. And then everybody's exhausted and everybody's tired. End while you're on top. And I felt like that's what I did. And I inspired my other family members to end while they are on top too. So
if we can kind of just wrap things up, so we don't go too long for our viewers. Josie, one of the things we talked about in the video is that the holiday times become an obligation, and we do things as a should can you just share your perspective of shoulds and obligations in family and how your choices are shifting that and how your relationships are changing, not only with yourself, but with your family members because you're no longer doing things as a should and as an obligation?
Yeah. I'd say that I've always done things as a should, and to me, a should is doing something for somebody else.
Oh,
Going to Thanksgiving because I think my mom wants me there, or going to church for Christmas because my family's going and I feel like I should be a good daughter. I should be a good family member.
beautiful.
I should be a good woman and make a good dish. And I was doing all these things as shoulds. And when I do that, I just build anger and resentment, and it just builds inside of me. And I don't want to be around anybody. And I put up my walls to myself, and I put up my walls to my family. So by taking away my shoulds and making the choice for myself to do everything, not just the big choices, like I'm going to Thanksgiving, but I'm making the choice, okay, I'm going to Thanksgiving. Okay, I'm choosing to share about myself with my family. I'm choosing to talk to people I've never talked to before. I'm choosing to make a dish for me. So, in doing things for myself and breaking down all my choices into smaller choices, suddenly I go from this experience of feeling like I'm alone in a room full of people, which is my old experience, to feeling totally feet on the ground, solid in myself, showing up in part of the experience and then being separate from the experience. And when I'm part of the experience, because I'm choosing to be there, because I want to be there, and I'm there to learn, and I'm there to learn about myself and to grow, then all of a sudden, it opens up the doorway to have a relationship with my family members. They suddenly get to know the real me. And then
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but sometimes it's really hard to understand this wall thing, walls up and walls down. What you're saying, when you do things with as a should, your walls go up. Why does that happen? What does it mean your walls are up? And when you make choices, your walls drop down. Can you? You're doing
yeah,
a really good job.
thank you. When I make a choice, when I do some things as a should, I don't want to do them. I'm doing them for other people. And when I do that, to me, it's like I just build a cage around my heart. Like I put steel around myself, and I don't want to be there. And if I don't want to be there, it means I don't want to feel. And I don't want to feel. To me, that means I put this metal cage around my heart, and I've sectioned myself off.
That's right.
For myself and everybody else. Like I literally see it as like a cold metal box that I put myself in. And there's no way for me to interact and to love and to share and to feel and to be around other people when I'm doing things out of shoulds and putting myself in this cold metal box.
And then how does you said you make these individual choices along the day, how does that drop your walls and allow you to engage? Why does that work that way?
Well, the small choices are what takes me from feeling like I'm in the back seat of a runaway car to putting myself in the driver's seat with my hands securely on the steering wheel.
Beautiful, yeah.
When I don't make any choices, and especially not the small little stepping stone ones, I feel like I'm just being blown around with the wind. I'm being blown into Thanksgiving. I'm being blown out. I'm being dragged here. I'm being dragged there. And it feels like, even though it's not, it feels like it's against my will. Like I'm being taken by these forces, whether it's my family, whether it's the holidays. And when I stop and realize that my life is solely because of me, and that I am 100% responsible and in charge for my life, I start to make one little step of a choice, and then I say the next little step of a choice. And just even making the choice to wake up and say, okay, this is my day. I'm going to do the very best job that I can do, and I'm going to be my best. That means I'm going to clean my kitchen if I want to clean my kitchen before I go to Thanksgiving. I'm going to make my dish for myself. I'm going to drive slowly and not speed. I'm going to, show up and say hi to my family and let my mom be, if she's upset, that's okay. I'm gonna just be calm in myself. I'm gonna go on a walk if I want to go on a walk outside. And so it's just, for me, in that Thanksgiving, it's just all those small little choices that suddenly take me from the very back of the car and put me straight in the driver's seat, hands on the wheel, and I can say, I want to go left, or I'm choosing to go right, and it's all on me. And when I make these choices to put myself in the driver's seat and be in charge of my life, I start to create a life that I love living. I say, well, I want this kind of life. I want to be engaged in Thanksgiving and Christmas. I want to get to know my family members, and then I make the choice to do that. I say, I want to make a career choice. Well, let me make the small steps to get there. And it's so great because instead of feeling like my life is dependent upon other people, like, oh, my happiness on Thanksgiving is dependent on my family members, my happiness in my life all becomes dependent on me with all of the small choices that I make that put me in charge of my life.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Josie. That was very articulate, very passionate. Karen, can you kind of wrap up for us and just tie that what Josie said into being responsible in being the driver's seat and how that creates our own happiness and bringing that into our marriage and our relationships?
Yes, that I think our video today, and Josie, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your experience, because I think your experience is really showing us and helping us to see that when we're doing the work to find our happiness within and taking that burden off of our husband, off of our marriage, off of our family, even off of the holidays, then we make room to go within and find our happiness within ourselves by being able to make choices in our lives of really knowing who we are and what we want to experience. And when we can do that and take that burden off of others, then we get to enjoy our lives no matter what's going on for other people, or no matter what's going on with the holidays. That when we don't take responsibility for ourselves and our own happiness, then we make all of our choices based on other people, like Josie was talking about, shoulds and obligations. And when we do that, that's where we put our walls up, and that's where we block ourselves from really finding our happiness within, because we're not making any choices for ourselves. We're making choices based on our husband and what choice do I need to make so that I get this from him, so that I get the validation or approval from him, or he does what I need him to do to make me happy, which makes things so much more complicated. So when we can build that relationship with ourselves, like Josie said, we put ourselves in the driver's seat to start making choices in our lives, which then builds a relationship with ourselves. I want to say Josie's a really special person, but she couldn't have been making these choices and given herself the experience she had on Thanksgiving without knowing who she is and having a relationship with herself. And that's really how we can find our happiness within and begin to feel good about who we are, is doing the work to, I think Josie did a great job of sharing how she used to show up on the holidays, and she had to look at all of that and be honest with herself about the places that she was doing shoulds in her life and doing things out of obligation, so that she could let that go and then discover who she really is and be able to bring that to the table. And I think that's a lot of what we're really talking about today.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure sharing this, Karen, you and Josie. It's a big shift to begin to realize that every choice that you're making is creating the experience of yourself and your life, and wanting to take responsibility for that choice. So rather than living in an unconscious, making choices because you're not in there, meaning that you're not aware of the choice and where it's leading to, we talked about creating conscious choices that lead you into, as Josie said, being the driver's seat and creating the life that you want. and not being dependent upon your husband or your partner or your family to determine your own happiness, that you are in the driver's seat by making conscious choices about yourself because you know who you are and what gives you happiness and joy within yourself to bring to others. So can you wrap up, Karen, and
Of course.
send us on our way?
Yeah. So if you're maybe sitting there thinking, how do I get to a place where I can make choices and I do know who I am and I really know what it means to have a relationship with myself and can experience that, and you're feeling maybe at a loss of how to do that and you want to know how, then send me a private message and we'll book a free call to talk and figure out what's not working in your marriage and where you want to be. And if we can help you get there, then we'll show you how. And if not, that's okay. I promise that you will get so much out of just a single conversation to really start to see the roadmap on how to be able to make these choices in your life and be in the driver's seat, which is the very, very thing that will turn your marriage around and allow you to have the intimate, loving relationship you've always desired with your husband. It really does begin with you and the relationship you have with yourself. So if you're ready to dive in and explore that, send me a private message and we will get on a call and just have
And
a
there's
conversation.
no better time to do it than at the end of the
Holidays.
year for like let's get this right and start off the new year.
It's
So
true.
thank you so much, Karen and Josie. Appreciate you jumping on this impromptu call.
Oh, so
And
can I just say one thing too
Sure.
to all the viewers out there, that there's nothing special or nothing different about me than is in you too. And all I had was just a willingness to look into myself and to want to be honest about the ways in my life that I wasn't being myself, and to work on that and to learn to give myself a life I'm proud of, and that I couldn't have done that on my own. That it took the help and the loving support of Karen and David and the relationship program to get me to a place where I feel proud about who I am and the life that I have. And I'm so thankful to both of you. This program has completely changed my life and continues every day to transform it in new and just wonderful ways. So thank you.
well, happy holidays, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Josie, Karen.